Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner, a first question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with Zoom. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
She was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is...
I think somebody should look into that, too, when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans have said?
I really don't know. I really don't know. Could be. There are some.
We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics.
Excuse you. You're the one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
Would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
and make it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to...
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
I think this was really a remarkable moment in what has been a remarkable campaign season. To see former President Trump in front of a group of black journalists who invited him to answer questions about policy, about his views on the campaign trail, about his views about America and his vision for the future. And to have him go after Vice President Harris in this way that is really, really questioning her identity, questioning her authenticity, was really, really something to behold. And I think as someone who's covering the Harris campaign, and it was covered frankly, the vice president, when she was a senator way back, more than a decade now, I've been following her work and interviewing her. It's very clear that she's been very, very pointed and also very, very articulate when it comes to talking about her background, talking about what she got from her mother and her father being a black man who was of Jamaican descent, her mother being someone who was Indian. She talks about how that background and her parents meeting as civil rights activists, taking her to protest in a stroller, that she had her identity really, really very clearly understood her identity as from when she was a little girl. So to hear him say that she had been claiming to be only Indian and only now is talking about being African American is just frankly not true, Nicole. She went to a historically black college. She pledged and joined a historically black sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the first historically African American sorority founded in this country. And she's time and time again throughout her career talked about the importance of racial justice and tying it back to her own identity. So this really is something that I think is it is really hard to fathom that former President Trump thought that this insult, this attack was going to land. It just doesn't make sense to even say this. And in talking to people, you read some of the reporting that I got. I was sitting in the room and people were stunned, right? I'm going to take you a little bit behind the scenes. People were stunned. People were gasping. There were some people who were shouting back at him, saying that's a lie. So the room, the atmosphere, I think, was already sort of tense because this is a president that has attacked a number of National Association Black journalists. There was a lot of questions whether or not he should be invited. Everyone had different opinions. But when he started sort of talking about her race, it really just I think really made the room feel very much like this is a palpable anger from some people. And again, journalists, we're covering him objectively, we're covering him fairly. But I think when you start to say things that are just simply not true and going after someone's blackness, it really hurts. And I want to just read to you some of the things that I got when I was texting Harris sources. One person said he's completely unhinged. This is Trump. He cannot help himself. As you said, someone else says this completely insulting and repulsive. Exactly what Karine Jean-Pierre said from the podium. Someone else else said it's simply a lie and easily disproven. She went to Howard for Christ's sake. Another person said this is painful, having to deal with discrimination and having to deal with people taking their lives for their race and who they are. And Vice President Harris has really found herself in the lineage of that. Let's also talk about the fact that she was at the Selma, Alabama, at the Edmund Pettus Bridge, talking about racial justice, and to have this sort of, there can be policy differences, right? You can have policy differences. You can have different visions of the world. But this attack was just something that was, I think, that was really, really a low bar, even for former President Trump, who has gone very, very much a low bar, gone very much underground in some of the comments he's made about different people.